Hey everyone, my name's Hunter Turner. Welcome to my TED Talk. This is Why Am I So Inspirational? Where disability really belongs in sport. By me, Hunter Turner. A disabled person is not inherently inspirational for getting out of bed every single day. This is something I hear quite often. As someone who lives with a disability on a daily basis, people often say to me, "Wow, man, I can't believe you get out of bed every day and do what you do." And my response is, "Well, you do the same thing every day and nobody gives you an award for it." So my point is that we're not inherently inspirational. People with disabilities go through the same struggles as able-bodied individuals. I get stressed out. I get in arguments with my wife, things we all go through struggles. So don't look at disabled people as inherently inspirational figures. Imagine an acquaintance walks up and tells you that you are an inspiration. I could never go through what you go through on a daily basis. It inspires me to never complain about my life. How would you react to that? Well, for me, I'll just give you my example. When people do that to me all the time, they say, you inspire me not to complain, Hunter. You're this champion. And and I'm like, man, I just do what I got to do because it's the hand that I was dealt. And and I want people who are not disabled to realize that, we're just like everybody else. We go through our struggles. We don't want to be recognized for just, doing what everybody else does every day. I mean, we go through, we work hard and we try to do our best. And yes, it sucks. It's okay to say that it sucks and that we struggle. And I think a lot of times people just sit there and say, oh, you know, oh, isn't he so awesome? Doing this, that, and the other. And it's like, no, I'm just doing my life. And I think that's the one thing people need to understand is that, we're just living our lives. And going forward, I think that if able-bodied people saw people with disabilities as just like them, they would realize that it's just them doing their thing and they're just going through life. And then this brings me to my main topic, which is inspiration porn. Part of my experience is fueled by the concept of inspiration porn. Inspiration porn is defined as showing a disability as if it's worthwhile, but an unworthy characteristic to have. And this is shown through visuals of disabled people showing physical strength as if they are overcoming their disability. And the thing about it is, people want to see this, the overcoming. It's always about overcoming. Well, what it really should be about is it should be about the fact that it's okay to be disabled. It's okay to it's okay to say, yes, I have cerebral palsy, and yes, I am different, and it's okay to accept that. And I think sometimes society pushes on disabled people this constant feeling and nagging of you have to be overcoming your disability for you to be worthy and worthwhile, and that just is simply not true. But it happens so often that I get it almost all the time when I go to a football game or this, that, and the other. Everything I do, there has to be some sort of overcoming involved. Going to physical therapy, for example, people want to see you overcome something that that they feel is a huge obstacle. When to me, it's just, this is my life, and people are constantly trying to search for that showing of overcoming. It's what society wants to see, and I think it makes able-bodied people feel better to see us overcome, to frame it as if we're overcoming our disability, when in reality, it's okay to just be disabled and accept it. So here's an example of inspiration porn. I get a kick out of this one. How could a guy ever say forever alone after looking at this picture? Come on, guys. If he can get this pretty girl, you can do it too. Okay, this is wrong on like so many different levels. Because if you look at this, all right, how could a guy ever say forever alone looking at this picture? First of all, guys, if you can't get a girl on your own, it's because it's because of you. Look in the mirror. Don't say, oh, this disabled guy gets a girl, so why can't I? I mean, I'm married, so I get this all the time where people are like, well, oh my goodness, I'm gonna be alone forever. How in the world, you know, why is she with you and all of that? And so, you know, don't use us as props to say, oh, you can get a girl if she looks like this, or why is that pretty girl with him? That's often what I get is, why is this pretty girl spending her time with him? And that constantly becomes a thing where people look at my wife and I and say, how in the world are these two together? Why are they together? This doesn't make any sense. And I think that people constantly are looking at us thinking, you know, oh my goodness, how did he get her? Or things of that nature. And it's just so old. It's so old, and so just I I married my wife because of my personality, not because anything to do with my wheelchair. And I think people often forget that. Here's another one. The only disability in life is a bad attitude. That's the Scott Hamilton quote from the Olympics. And let me tell you something, that is the furthest thing from the truth. If a bad attitude, as Miss Young said, if a bad attitude could could make stairs disappear, if my attitude can make stairs disappear, then I'd be really happy. Like if my attitude can make an elevator appear when there's stairs or a ramp or anything, that'd be great. But guess what? My attitude can't control any of that. That's just because of my disability. So I feel like we're constantly, being told, well, you just got to change your attitude and your outlook. You can do anything. Well, that's not always the case. That's a lie that's propagated through society and ableism. And I think that's something that needs to be corrected. And the second meme says, never ignore somebody with a disability. You don't realize how much they can inspire you. Share if you agree. Okay, ignore me. Okay, I'm just like everybody else. Don't come to me for inspiration, man. There's so many more people out there for inspiration. I'm just trying to live my life. And I think people constantly come up and say, oh, or like, why are you not, you're always smiling, or this, that, and the other. Why aren't you smiling today? I'm not here to be your inspiration soundboard. I'm here to be pissed off, upset, and every other thing in between. That's just who I am. And I'm a normal human being just like everybody else. But I constantly see people come to me for inspiration. And I'm like, find it within yourself. Don't come to me. And now we're at the 5 components of inspiration porn. So the first component is the tragedy model of disability. This is where someone views disability as tragic, basically saying like, oh my goodness, isn't it so awful that he's in that wheelchair? It must be awful. And the second component involves assuming that living with a disability is inherently courageous. Like, oh, Hunter, you must be so courageous to be living with that disability. I'm like, no, man, I was born this way. I've just had to deal with it the whole time. I'm not inherently courageous or better than anybody else. I'm a piece of, I'm, I'm a punk just like every other 29-year-old individual out there. The third component is being pegged as inspirational for completing a mundane task. And this is true. When I go to Publix, if I take something off the shelf, some man will, usually an elderly person will, undoubtedly a man or woman will come over and say, wow, I can't believe you got that off the shelf yourself. And then they'll look at my wife as if she's evil for making me get stuff off the shelf on my own. And I find that hilarious because people constantly do that. They constantly come out and they say, you know, you're so incredible. You just took ketchup off the shelf. It's like, man, I just was buying groceries. You know, calm down. But that's just the way that it is. The fourth component is objectifying disabled individuals to make able-bodied individuals feel better about themselves. So this is where people say, that they, oh, I could never do what you do. You know, oh my goodness, you know, Hunter, I could never be like you, man. I could never go through what you're going through. And they say to themselves, oh, well, at least I'm not disabled. I could have this in life, but at least I'm not disabled. Man, I love my life. Okay, so being disabled is probably the best thing ever happened to me. First of all, I get to sit down all day. I don't got to worry about, you know, having to walk around, go upstairs, do anything else. I just do me, and that's it. And I think people oftentimes sit there and say, you know, oh, I could never do that. Well, you don't know what you can do until you're forced into doing it. And this is all I've ever known. So that's why I love, you know, living with my disability. And I think it is, you know, inherently what makes me me. And finally, the fifth component is victim blaming, as if they have control of their disability by their attitude. And this kind of goes back to the Scott Hamilton thing where he says the only disability in life is a bad attitude. Obviously, that's not true. And I think that I see victim blaming all over the place. You know, you tell people in wheelchairs, you're like, oh, you know, you can do anything you want if you just put your mind to it. Well, no, sometimes there are disabilities and things that get in the way, and I think we have to respect that, recognize that, and move forward. And finally, where disability really belongs in sport. Disabled individuals want to participate in sports for the love of the game, not to be glorified based on their disability. Disabled individuals do things for the same reasons that able-bodied people do, and especially when it comes to this class, we're leaders just like everybody else. We want to lead, we want to make a difference, but we don't want our leadership to be based on our disability. We want to take things further. We want to show, in spite of our disability, that we are able to do these things separate and apart from our disability, so that I'm not inherently inspirational because of my disability. You know, I'm able to accomplish a task and work just as hard as the next person. That's what we want to do. We want to be recognized on the same individual level as the next guy. And that's what it really comes down to when it comes down to being a leader in sport, and especially a leader with disability. And overall, my goal is to be a leader that brings people together and shows people that, you know, regardless of disability or able body or whatever, that I can work on the same level playing field as everybody else. And I think that's what everybody wants. And here are my references. And I thank you so much for watching my presentation. I really enjoyed this class, and I hope you got something out of it. Thank you so much.